Good afternoon, fret friends. We have something extra special on the bench today, and I don't say that very often. I do say special, but not extra special. And this is special in as much as it's well, it's the only one on the planet. So you don't get much more special than that, do you? Or maybe you do. But anyway, here we go. How's that for a neck? Beautiful, eh? Do you want to see the figure in the wood? Look at this. Look at the binding. Look at the inlays, look at everything about this. It is astonishingly good. And I'll tell you what it is in a minute. I'm going to show you the body. The body's not the main reason it's come in. Even though it is quite special. Weighs 3 ton. Heaviest Telecaster I've ever picked up this. American ash. Super figured. Absolutely beautiful. Stunning. Bridge plate, handmade by a proper intelligent guy. Back plate, everything about this. It's all man-made. It's a Luthier guitar. Unfortunately, the Luthier is no longer with us. He passed away at some point. His name is, I'm not sure of his first name, but it's Mr. Cairnes, England. So yeah, it just says Cairnes, England on there. And that's it. This is a Cairnes 504 Custom. And the reason I say the body's not that important is the body does need work. But the main problem is the neck, and it's bent here. From a 15 fret, it cocks up that way. Now, the guy who owns this, he initially contacted me and he says, the heel area is swelled. Now I thought he meant that way. He means this way. I don't particularly think it's swelled. I think it's bent, and it is bent from a 15 fret upwards. Now, I had a Warmouth necking like this a couple of years ago, and I couldn't mend it, and it ended up costing me a lot of money, because I had to give a bloke his money back, and I paid him for the neck, and blah, blah, blah. This has got exactly the same problem, but I've talked at length with the owner of this. There's a couple of ways. I know I can fix this. Absolutely, I am going to fix this. But I talked to the owner about it, and we both came to the conclusion that as good as I am at straightening necks, we're not going to even attempt to straighten this, even though the kink is there. What we're going to do is we're going to sand it, and we're going to sand this upturn out of it. And it means we're going to be a bit lower at this end. It's going to look a bit kooky. But we are going to have a straight neck. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull the frets, I'm going to sand off the lacquer off the top completely, and we're going to re-radius the whole board. We're not going to remove any material from here to here. We're just going to be removing material mainly from this end. We're going to remove the lacquer at this end because we're going to have to respray it. The frets, I'll tell you about frets in a minute. I'll tell you why I think this is bent. And again, I think it's the wood wasn't ready to be used to make a neck, and I think something's happened to the wood. It's dried out over time and it's kinked up, and the reason I think that is the frets are a giveaway for me. The fret ends are very, very sharp, and they're slightly sticking out, and they are really sharp at the edges. The owner hadn't noticed that. I says, well, they are. I says, and the problem with that is the wood shrunk over time. I'm pretty certain the wood has shrunk. It's a sealed piece of wood. It's lacquered all areas, all over, so there's no moisture getting in there. And I just think it's dried out over years, over time. Because he says it was straight for a while, but it definitely kicks up here, about 1 millimetre this end, from this fret here. But I personally think that's what's happened to it. So I says, what we're going to do is, we talked about it, I says, look, I could try and straighten it. He wasn't keen on me straightening it. He says, what if it goes out of shape again? I says, well, all I'm going to do by straightening it is I'm going to get some heat in the wood fibres and clamp it back, and we're going to hopefully make the wood fibres go back to original shape. But end of the day, if the wood wasn't dried before it was used, or dried properly before it was used, it never was in a proper original shape. It might have been shaped one certain way, but there may have been a damp patch around here or something. And so what we decided to do is, if it's staying like this and it's going to stay in this shape, I'm just going to remove from this end, and I'm going to try and show you. And I'm not sure if you'll be able to see or not. You look in here and it cocks up this end, it bends around this way. And I'm going to show you from that end, or try to. And it's this last part from about here. And I'm going to show you this way. And you might just see it kinking from about here. Aim it going that way. I can see it clearly. So like I say, we're just going to sand that off. So I'm going to get the frets out, Going to remove the lacquer off the top. He did bring 2 of the necks with him. He says if we can't fix this, which he'd rather do, it's number 1. He says we've got a plan B and a plan C. His plan B was he'd got not a warm-up, an all parts or accessories or something, some good branded Fender license neck, which we could have used. So I don't know how to do that. Then he bought a brand new handmade neck. Not even carved yet, not even shaped, just basically the fingerboard and stuck to the neck with the headstock done, and that was it. So I'd have been completely shaping that from scratch. I said, look, let's forget plan B and plan C. Let's go with plan A. The frets need changing. The frets are weeder, the sharp, the 2 weedy anyway, so he's going to have a refret anyway. I'm going to sand off all of the lacquer. I'm going to re-radius at this end. I'm going to refret it. Once I've refretted it, I'm going to send it away to get re-lacquered. And basically my friend, Mr. Eastwood at Beaver Guitars, will just lacquer the top and blend it in at the sides. You do see though there is binding there, which I've got to work around. So I've got to refret inside the binding. I am working with lacquer. It's going to be an expensive job, this one. He says I'm not worried about the money. The refret alone is going to cost him, working with lacquer and working inside binding, that's already. It's £200 for refret, £25 extra for working with lacquer, £25 extra for working inside binding. Then you've got the bits to buy. We've got to buy a nut, we've got to buy some fret wire, which is going to be 15 quid. That takes you to 265 quid for the refret. That's not including me sanding the board. So let's say £300 for the refret, and it's going to be another £100 to get it sprayed. Well, that's including postage both ways, I'm thinking. So we're looking at a budget of around 400 quid, of which 100 quid will be going to the sprayer and on postage there and back. He's going to buy some new tuner strips. I've told him which ones to buy. He's already gone and bought them. There's other jobs to be done. Fitting it to the body. I'm going to... The inserts for these, can't find them anyway, 9mm. There are no 9mm ones. I'm going to fill this with what I've ordered some washers with 9mm outer diameter and a 4.3mm inner diameter. So I'm going to slightly drill them out. That's why I bought brass ones. I'm going to slightly drill them out, make them about 5mm the holes. And I'm going to drop them in here. I'm going to drop them in with some epoxy, let it set, and I'm going to re-drill the holes all the way through. And we're going to have a nice, firm and a level area to put the clamp and neck onto. I'm going to put a plate on there. I've already ordered the plate. That's another 7 or 8 quid. So that's been ordered. Not going to touch the inside, even though that's a little bit hollowed out. I'm going to leave everything as it is, including the shim. And I'm going to basically get it back on here, and everything about this should be absolutely fine. So I'm not really concerned about anything to do with this. I do believe both of these pickups are handmade. They're made by Mr. Cairnes as well. We've got Cairnes on there. Just everything about this is really, really fantastic. I've not checked the electrics yet, not been able to, because I had it didn't come to me built up. It came to me in bits like this. But the main area of, the main thing we're going to be concentrating on is this neck. So I just wanted to get it on film now, get it shown, let you know my plans. I'm not going to work on it today, but I'm going to be pulling the frets out, see where we are. I'm going to go and talk money with Mr. Haywood and let him know what it's going to cost. He already said about $350 for my work, which we are looking at we're looking well in that region, I think. Well, not in that region with my work. We're looking at $250 for the refret. I didn't figure in like stripping the board as well. Now when the board's stripped, I'm going to refret it. I'm going to level the frets and everything with the lacquer off. I'm going to spray it with the frets in. But what we're going to do is we're going to cover the pickups with 3mm tape and spray over the pickups. We'll still get a little bit of lacquer build up on the bottom of the frets, but not over the top like you get when Fender do them. So it's going to be a fantastic professional job. The nut, by the way, I was worried about the nut, worried about getting it out because it sits inside the binder. And again, I said to the owner, I'm going to get it out. But I got it out really easy. I put my thumb under it and it just popped out. And it's an aluminium nut. I would like to see a brass one, but there you go. Let me just show you the shape of the nut. See how the tangs, like tangs on a fret, they've been cut out. So that works absolutely fine. And that's just a slot in affair, like so. Just push it straight in like that. There's plenty of room for adjustment on the nut, so I don't think we're going to have to change the nut. And that looks fantastic. So that's it. I've shown you what it is, where we're at and what I'm going to do. It's going to be a fantastic project. It's going to take me a while, I'm going to take my time with it, there's no rush. This is one of those ongoing jobs like Mr. Downer's job I've also added, a 1959 Hofner. These are timeless jobs that I have in that I work on. I don't give them full attention all the time, but I work on them on and off between other jobs. So that's what I'm going to do with this one. It's not going to be a slow process, it's just I'm not going to be at it all guns blazing. So I'm going to work this one around. One thing that worried me about this was the shape of the truss rod bullet there. It goes at an angle. Very, very strange affair. I don't know why it does that. It should be straight. But it works, and it works that way. So we're going to have to leave it and hope for the best. So that's it. I've introduced you to the guitar. It is a Cairnes C.504.V.2. Or a Cairnes 504 custom. So there you go. So update later. Okay, friends, we're going to set about setting this neck up for sanding. I've decided not to even try bending it straight. I've just taken the truss rod bullet off. I'm going to leave it loose, and I'm going to basically file this neck straight. So I built this. I made this tool a couple of years ago. It's basically a piece of MDF with a channel down the middle, and this channel just happens to be the correct width for a radius beam. Now these radius beams, I've never used them before. They're brand new from Philadelphia Luthier tools in the United States. I bought a set of 6 of these, cost me, I can't remember how much it cost me, about 450 quid, something like that for 6 of them. Probably a bit less, but I had to pay import tax on them and VAT, and I think it did cost me 450 quid. Cost me about 70 quid each. That's right, 70 something pound each. Anyway, I built this thing. It's just a channel that this fits in. I've got some Velcro there, and what I do is I affix the neck central, right on the centre line of the channel. You see I've got tape on the back there and there, and we're going to put some Velcro on the back. That's why I put tape on there, so it doesn't stick permanently. We're going to get this centred on the Velcro, and once it's centred we're going to affix some sandpaper to this beam, and we're going to re-radius this, and we're going to sand it flat. We're going to sand this hump out of this end. Now, fingers crossed and Lord God on our side, we're going to not take too much off it. We'll remove these inlays here. I don't know how deep those inlays are. It's a non-reversible fix this, so hopefully they are deep enough and we don't have to remove them. But at the end of the day, the owner of a client has told me to sand this to radius and to straightness before I refret it, so I don't really have a choice. Something else I'm going to do is I'm going to cut these slots deeper for the frets, or maybe I'll alter the fret wire slightly. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put some gubbins on here, on the neck. See how much I'm going to need there. So I'm going to put some Velcro on there. The good thing about doing it this way is it's removable because we've got tape behind it. So that's that. Same at this end. About the same amount. Don't need to go OTT, we don't need a stupid amount. To buy some more of this. I'm going to go try and centre it on the skunk stripe there, so that's pretty good. And that will do us. And all we're going to do is we're going to centre it, bring it as close to here as we can. That's good. That looks pretty good. And I'll measure the gap each side, and I'll just make sure it's all centred. And then when we come across with the radius beam, with sandpaper on it, that's going to do its job with the channel there. And we're going to sand the neck flat. We're removing the hump at this end. That shouldn't move at all, so leave that with me. I'll come back with an update and show how I'm going to affix tape to this by the same method. I'm going to grab some masking tape. Do I have some out? I have some out. I'm just going to put layer masking tape somewhere down the middle. I'm going to do the same with the sandpaper. Doesn't have to be in a perfectly straight line, as long as we've got it on there. It doesn't have to be right up to the line, as long as there's not too big a gap. It does tend to come offline a little bit, this tape, so we're just going to take the thumb down there. Make sure it's not overlapping, because we want to maintain the radius. And that's there. So you see how this is going to work. And I'm going to put the tape on with double-sided sticky tape. So yeah, so that's that. So that gives us a nice surface for the sandpaper there. Just snip these little bits off. Don't want anything hanging out. That's all pretty good. So I'm going to fix some sandpaper to that. I think I'm going to go with some 80 grit just to get all the lacquer off and start radiusing. I'll finish off with, we'll go with something like, we'll move up to 160, then maybe 240, and finish off with 400 just to smooth the neck. So it is a bit of a bind. It's time consuming, and there's quite a few changes. I do have other beams. I do have my ones from Guitars and Woods as well, the actual good ones, before we started doing making crap tools. If you want to know about that, see my videos from earlier last year, from 2020. So I'm going to get some sandpaper on there. Like I say, I think I'm going to go with quite a coarse grit. See what I've got down here. Got some 120 grit, that'll do, that'll be perfect. I've got 3 sheets or whatever. I'll cut this to width. I'm going to get away with 2 sheets. I don't need to go right to the end. If I put 2 sheets on there, go right not to the end, will be alright. Just match it up in the middle, and I've got plenty there to be sanding. So that's good. So 2 sheets of that, I've got 2 sheets. That's perfect, that's exactly the right amount, means that's all I've got. So I'll be using 2 sheets of that, so we can't overlap, that's a good thing. Anyway, I'm going to crack on, get that done. Once that's done, I'll get this all measured up, we'll get on there and we'll start sanding, hopefully. Well, I don't know if I do have 3 sheets, there you go. Back soon. This is the way I set it central. I get 2 pieces of wood the same thickness and I slide it up each side until we get tight, like so, on the same fret, right on this fret here, so we know this bit's central. And then I just measure each side. Got 7mm that side. Got 7mm that side, and we'll come and check this end. We have 13mm and a notch there, and we have 1, 2, 3 and a notch there. So that to me is central. So we're central, we're fixed, and we can now start removing material. We're going to concentrate more on this end because we need to get it level. It's a matter of just keep going across, keep coming back, and keep checking. And I don't know how much we're going to remove. It's already removing stuff from this far side, I can see it, and it's going to take a while. We're going to remove all the lacquer, get down to the wood. I was going to hit this end first because this is the end that actually tips up at the end like that. You see, that's where we are. I'm going to be brushing this off. I'm probably going to remove all this and just put some dust covers down and what have you, because it's going to be a dusty job. This is probably not very good for your lungs. I'm going to put on a mask. I'll remove my spectacles, put on a mask, and take it from there. So this is going to be quite a bit of hard work. So I'll come back and give you an update later. So a quick update, and I'm wearing a mask so I might sound a bit muffled. We still have lacquer in the middle area and mostly at this end. We've removed the lacquer at this end, that's because this end does cock up. So we're not touching all this area just yet. We are getting close, but we're just removing the lacquer at the moment. We are removing wood at this end. We're through the lacquer, just over the last 2 or 3 frets. This will cause a problem in as much as the fret slots are not going to be as deep at this end, which means I'm going to have to basically go for a shorter tanged fret wire if they're not deep enough. I do have a saw that cuts inside the binding that I will cut deeper to anyway. It's going to be a lot more work than a normal refret, but we will get there. Just a matter of being patient and letting the sandpaper do the work it's employed to do. And we are now getting into the lacquer at this end. I can see it. I do like this piece of kit I built. Great piece of kit. I don't know where I got the idea. Maybe I saw it somewhere online. Certainly not my idea. Just if you can build a tool, build it. I would like this rail to be a little bit close together, probably 1 millimetre wider than it ought to be. But anyway, this is tiring, so I'm going to crack on with it, should I say, and back later. I wasn't happy with the small hump in the middle of the neck, so I've taken to getting a 3rd radius block, wooden one, and just going over the middle area, reducing that down, then finishing off with the other 2, one with 120 grit and one with 80 grit. Now this one's the one with the 80 grit on. It's all done. I went over with a pencil lines as well, made sure everything's all level. Just going to do it one more time. Pencil line right down the middle, all the way down there, and I'm just going to finish off with the finer of these 2. Which I think this is this one with a 120 on there, and I think we've now got the neck dead straight. Just concentrate on this middle hump. So we've got a bit of pencil left there. That's looking pretty good. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to finish this off with some 400 grit shortly. Quite happy with that. Just a little bit of pen just there. Let's just go over with this. Sorry, pencil, not pen. And that looks good to me. So I just want the one with the full. There you go. This will be the one. Just give that a quick wipe over. We've got the neck nice and even, all the same colour now. It's a tiny bit of darker wood on that far side, but once we get the oil on the neck there, you're not going to see any of that. So that is it. We are all done, and I'm pretty certain that that neck is now dead straight. We're just going to check all 3 areas. We're going to check. This is my Veritas straight precision straight edge. We're just going to check that the neck is level and straight along the whole length. So straight down the middle, perfect. Far side, Yep, perfect. Near side. Perfect. There you go, guys. We have a straight neck. That is fantastic. Really appreciate it. I'm going to leave that there just for now because I want to take a photograph for my client. And that, my friends, is wonderful. Really pleased with this. That looks very good. So one other thing we need to check is, are those slots deep enough for frets? Now I did take a fret depth gauge, one here, and what we're looking for is these lines to disappear. Now I've already checked and we have enough depth, so fortunately the builder of this guitar cut these fret slots deep, and that is fantastic news for me. I think in some areas we're just right on the cusp, but I will get in there with my saw. Oh no, that's fantastic. We are well deep enough. We are right down to the line, so that's fantastic. So all I need to do is brush out these slots. Didn't want to remove any more wood because we're getting into these inlays a little bit. So I'm going to finish this off with some 400 grit. I'm just going to go over by hand. But that is a job well done. I'll get the camera a little bit closer in a minute. You can see where we're at. Just bear with me a second. Is that any better? So there you go. Lovely smooth neck. Just take the fret slot in depth slot gauge there, right into the slot, and we are well deep. We are covering the lines, we're just above the lines in there, so we've got well enough depth there for fret. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give this a few coats of oil now to seal the wood. I will have to scrape the oil out a little bit later, but hopefully I'm not going to get too much in the slots. But that's going to be the next part of the process. Hopefully I need 2 or 3 coats of oil. And that way it'll just get a nice stain on there, nice smooth finish on there, and we won't need, well, we're certainly not going to spray the neck back up until possibly I find a painter, but I think I'm just going with oil anyway. I think that grain on there looks fantastic. So friends, we have the neck dead straight. You may also notice it's a slightly different colour on the fingerboard. I have oiled and stained the fingerboard itself. We were going to go and have it lacquered, but the lacquer man I used to use has become somewhat unreliable of late, so I'm not using them anymore. I actually don't have a lacquer paint man. I will be looking out for one anywhere between Leicester and Sheffield, if anyone knows of anyone. But I have given this 6 coats of linseed oil. It feels lovely and smooth. It's beautiful. But one thing you'll notice is we now have the neck dead straight. Now, like I said, I didn't even attempt to bend this straight. I would have liked to early go at bending it straight, but the owner says no, just sand it straight. That's why we've got a thinner piece of binding at this end compared to what's in the middle. And it looks a bit like an optical illusion, but that's just the way it is. Quite a bit thinner at this end than it is anywhere else, and that's because we removed gear from the top. It is super straight now, the neck, which means we are ready just about to refret it. But what we've got to do before we refret it is we've got to clear these holes or these slots out. Now you notice we do have a bound neck, so we've got to use a tool inside the lines but not cut through the binding. I have just a tool, and again, Hosco Tools of Japan. I have quite a few Hosco tools, make good gear, and there you go, and we have got the perfect little saw for getting in the slots, and it cuts both ways. You've got one going one way, one going another, and all we're going to do is we're going to get inside the slots, and I'm going to try and show you, but by rights I should have this on a bench or in a vise, and that's it. We're going to get that saw in there, and we're just going to cut inside. We're going to make sure we clean and clear these slots, because there is gunk in there, because remember I put 6 coats of oil in there, so that with the dust and the oil has made some gunk inside. We need to clear all that out. There you go, that bit's gone. So it's going to take me a while to do this. I'm going to take my time because I do not want to slip and cut through the binding. So that's what I'm doing this afternoon. Nice and simple. I'm going to have a snooker on in the background on me. I've got my laptop behind me on the up there. Got the snooker on. I'm going to watch a bit of, well, listen to a bit of snooker. And I'm going to clear these slots, and once that's done we're going to get the fret wire and I'm going to start cutting the frets. Now because we have binding, I need to cut the frets to the right width and I need to remove the tang from the end so we can overlap on the edges. I'll explain a little bit more about that when I do it, so make sure you tune in for that. Okay fret friends, we're getting to the exciting bits, and with the neck ready, all the slots clear, we are going to cut the frets, and we have a fret block there to place all the frets in. Now these frets have to be precision cut. We are going with Sintom's 25% nickel silver, or Sintom's Elite as it's known, fret wire. This is 2.5mm wide by 1.2 high. Fantastic gear this. I think it's 12 quid a set, something like that. I've got 12 quid on there. That's including the postage. And what we're going to do is it's pre-radiused, so we don't need to re-radius anything. And what we're going to do is we're going to cut each piece to fit the slot. Why has that got blue on it? Got no idea why it's got some blue on it there, but it has. Just make sure it's the right stuff. Yeah, it looks to be bang on. So what we're going to do is we're going to cut about 4 pieces from a strip. And we're just going to cut a piece. Okay, cut that a bit long, but what we need to do with this is, it's no good just cutting the length and expect it to go in. We've got to remove the tang, or the bottom of the tang there, and we've got a tang nipper, again, made by Sintom's. This, it's not for cutting stainless steel, but it will cut stainless steel if you're very careful. But what we need to do with this is, we need to remove the end tang, so we get an overlap. I'll show you exactly what I mean in a minute when I get there. Make sure I've got it right road round. We're just going to place her in there, give it a cut. And again on the other side, I don't know why I've marked it off in blue. But you'll see there, I've removed that tang. You see it? And we need to basically leave enough so it just sits inside fret slots there, which it does there. And that's fantastic. And that sits in there beautiful. Probably took a bit too much off here. We're going to put that one in slot 22 there. And that's it. And with that, you see, we get an overlap because the tang is going inside the binding. How good's that? Now they need to be pressed in yet. But you see we've got an overhang there. And all we do with the overhang is we just snip it with the cutters there and there. And that is for fret 22. We bang that in the 22 slot, sorry, not fret 22. We'll go in 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, fret 19. So we'll stick that in the 19 like so, and we're going to get all the others cut. It's going to take me a while. But not the most difficult job in the world. Fret cutters, just slide in, nip that bit of tang off there, turn it over, nip bits a bit of tang off here. Again, check the slot. Okay, we're still a bit wide, we've got more there than we need. Remove a little bit more tang. Check again. Still remove a tiny bit more. Have a check. Yeah, place her in there like so. Nip off the end. And that's 21. So there you go. So it's going to take me a while to get these done, so I'm going to crack on, get them all done. Once they're done, we can move over to the fretting station. I've got a brand new fret press. I'm not using an arbor press anymore. I've got a precision made fret press from GMC Tools out in Wales there. We will be using that for this job. Come see that later. So fret friends, let me show you my new fandangled piece of kit. It's by GMC, it's a universal fret press, and this will press in frets on any guitar, any shape. And what I'll do is, away from here, I'll go and tap the two edges of the fret in. I'm sticking a 7.25 radius caul in there, even though it's a 9.5 inch radius, and I'll show you why in a second. I think I just need to, right, there you go. And that's because it'll press the edges in more, and I'll swap to a 9.5 when I get there. But all you do is, once this is all set up where you want it to be, you line up your neck and you just wind this handle, and this comes down and presses the fret in for you. And look at that. So that's the fret pressed in. I shall come back. And it looks a bit long-winded, and it is when you do it this way, but I'll press them all in using my 7 1/4, then I'll come to the 9 1/4, 9.5, stick the 9.5 one in there, then do them over 9.5 to press the middle down. So it's not as forty about it as you think it might be. But there you go. I will have to slightly adjust the height of this for later frets. But that's how this piece of kit works. And it wasn't cheap. It cost me 530 quid, I think. 450 quid. About 450 pound. And there you go, we're going in with a 9.5. And the thing about it is you have to line everything up all the time. There are a few different ways to use the device. Lining it up is a little bit awkward. I would like to have seen a groove on these pressing cauls. It's not a groove, it's just a flat plate. But you know, it works pretty well. At least I can do any guitar on it. Is it expensive for what it is? I don't think it's expensive for what it is, because it does a good job. It's just, it's a lot of money to lay out for something so awkward, I think. But is there any better way of doing it? Probably not. I don't think this one's built quite squarely, because the frets always seem to be slightly out of line. But that said, it gives a very, very good press. I've already pressed these in, and they are pressed in very, very well. So, you know, useful piece of kit. I will get the money's worth out of it. I don't begrudge paying 400. I think I paid 433 quid plus shipping. It cost me about 455 quid, I think. Don't begrudge paying that for a piece of kit that is good I'm going to use. It's just, I'm not 100% convinced. But do I regret buying it? No, absolutely not. It does the job. This will pay for itself when I do acoustic guitars, because it's got a special caul underneath that supports the sound hole while you press frets in, which means you're not going to bust through the body. So that is kind of worth that. And it's a merit, and you can only get that part with this actual full universal kit. You can get lower ones for neck-on ones, or you can get ones just for, we'll just do where you can remove a neck. So there are 3 different categories of press, but I went out and got the full old hog one. Anyway, it's doing a job. It's absolutely fine. I just need to adjust it a little to get the rest of the frets in, but I'm going to press them all in and you'll see the results of that later. Okay guys, so we've got all of the frets in. Does that look great? Really, really good. The editor's going to be so pleased. Nice straight neck, all the frets are in, but what we need to do now is we need to file these edges. So you'll see I've taped up the edge of the neck. I've also padded 2 areas, this one here and this area there, just in case I slip with the file. Not that I'm going to, I never do. It's just I wanted those areas just padded, just in case, because the file is going to be coming across the top at an angle this way. And if we do go too far, we're likely going to push into that. But we know we're not going to go nowhere near that far. But what I need to do with this now is move it over to the other bench. And what we're going to do is we're going to do these edges. Very, very small overhang on some of them. We're going to take a nice coarse file and we're going to file down the edge. It's why I've got the tape on there. Once we start hitting that tape, I'm going to bring the file over at an angle and we're going to put the bevel in as well. So we're not going to cut into the side of the neck, we're not going to cut into the binding. We're just going to, once we start hitting that tape, we're going to angle. So we're going to be filing straight and flush until we start hitting the tape. Then we're just going to bring it back at an angle and we're going to create the bevel in my frets. I'm going to do it both sides. I'm going to do this, I'm going to hold this in a vice while I do it. I've got various files to do the job, and it's pretty straightforward, but we need to make sure it's all neat and tidy and we don't cut into this binding on the edges of the neck. So I'm going to get set up and I'll come and show you how I do the bevels. Couple of ways I can do this, but I suppose I'm a bit of a traditionalist and I like to do it by hand. And to remove the main material, I'm going to be using a straight flat file. This file was normally used for doing bevels in a bevel holding device, but I didn't like using that because it didn't give me much control, but this gives me full control. It's a nice coarse file, it is dead straight, but it's a nice coarse file, so this is great just removing those edges, you know, where we've got the overlap. And I like to use this coarse file to get rid of the material I need to remove. It will go quite quickly. You see here, I'm just touching the tape, so I don't want to get too close. So once we start touching tape, we're going to angle the file. And see that it's touching the tape. We're not touching the binding or anything. But it doesn't take long to remove as much material as we need to remove. And what I do is I'll just keep checking. So we are starting to remove this tape. So we're very, very close to the edge. And you see, now once we get that close to the edge, you see the tape being removed. We're not cutting into the lacquer or anything yet, we're just taking our time. But once we get that close, I'm going to move to a different file. Now I could go with my diamond file. Again, great piece of kit. Just start at an angle and start the bevel. And I want to come over to about 20 degrees, which is about there. And I'll let the file do the work. And there you go, you see, I'm feeling right at the edge of that lacquer. Oh, it's just fantastic. I can take this tape off. This is just used as a guide. Once I get to this stage, I'll do it all by eye. We are going to slightly hit the lacquer. That is not a problem because we're going to polish it all up afterwards anyway. And what we're going to do is, with the tape off like that, can be a little bit more careful. And I will go to a different hand file in a moment. I'll be going to my famous Swiss file. Beautiful file this. Swiss made by Valorb. It's beautiful. It's number 4 cut, super smooth, super sharp, and it does have one perfectly flat edge. More by chance than anything. It wasn't bought that way. It's not meant to be a precision file, but this is fantastic because this, it almost polishes. It's such a good file. And what I'm able to do with this is just keep checking my work. I can still feel sharpness here, so we're still a bit over the edge. Very slight angle on this, just so I remove those overlapping edges there. I do like a very sharp nut mush. I like a small angled bevel. I don't like to cut right into 35 degrees like most do. I like to bring it to about 20 degrees, about that much, so it gives us more width of fret. Those edges are always going to feel a little bit sharp because we haven't rounded these edges over yet, but that feels really, really nice. And what we can do is, once we've got close like we have, we can take a sanding block with some 400 grit paper on there, some old 400 grit, something very similar to that. There you go. And all we're going to have to do is just remove these bird edges. And it'll tell you if there's any sharp edges there. I may have a little bit more work to do. That is feeling very, very nice. Once I've rolled over these edges, you're not going to feel any of that. And that is beautiful. So that's one side done. So I'm going to flip over, do the other side. Let me just see if I can show you a little bit of the how it's come out. And there you go. We've got very, very slightly beveled edges. Probably, have I got enough bevel in there? Probably need to go a little bit more bevel, but you know, I'm quite happy with that. No, I'm going to leave that as is. That looks fantastic to me. So there you go. That's that side done. Just give it a little wipe over. We've got that side done. It feels nice and smooth. You can't feel the frets at all. Running your hand up there. That's great. Once I've rolled these edges over, you're not going to feel anything at all. So yeah, really pleased with that. I'm going to move over to the other side, and I'll come and show you the results later. So we're now levelling the frets. Now, I've already levelled them using 240 grit paper. This side using a levelling beam by Crimson Guitars. This edge and this edge are precision ground flat. We have some 400 grit, 240 grit emery cloth on that side and 400 grit on this side. And because I've levelled them, I've just marked all the tops with pen, and we're just going to go across. We have the neck bolted to a piece of MDF. We have it supported so it's dead straight along its length. We're going to finish off with a 400 grit, which will remove a lot of the scratches we've put in this way with the 240. Smooth them off a bit, and once we've removed the pen, it shouldn't take too long. If the frets are level, it should take a few strokes, and then we can move on to the next part of the process, which is crowning the frets. So, following the radius. That is all of the pen removed from the tops of the fret, so we're just going to brush everything down. I'm going to take a fret rocker, make sure that all the frets are level in all areas, so middle, outside, inside. So far so good. And the frets are level along the whole length of the neck. Now there's no point us doing these beveled edges yet. We have done the bevels this way and this way. There's no point rounding them over or taking the sharpness off until we've got the frets recrowned. So what I'm going to have to do next is we're going to tape up the fingerboard, just leaving the frets exposed, and we're going to recrown these frets. That's with it now flat going that way. We've flattened them. We're going to rebuild that crown going that way, so we're basically like a D shape on its side or a C shape on its side, giving us a nice crown at the top. Once that's done, then we can come and roll around these edges, smooth them off, and then we can polish them, sand off all the edges and make these frets perfect. Moving on, so we have the frets beveled, so that's the edges, we've beveled over, we've levelled the frets, and now they're flat. going that way, we basically flatten the frets, need to rebuild that crown, so we're going to re-crown, or we're going to crown these frets. Now they come pre-crowned obviously, but because we've had to level them along the whole length, we've lost the crown and we've flattened the tops. So we're going to rebuild that crown, and there are various ways to do this. In the olden days I would have used a 3-cornered file. And I've gone across and I'd have rolled it one way, rolled it other way to rebuild that crown, but we don't have to do that anymore. There are various files on the market. There's this type, which I tend to use just for finishing. It's already got that concave or that crown built in, so that way, like that. And that tends to be much harder work doing it that way. What we want to do is, before we use anything like that, I'm not going to use this actually, I'm going to use a different one. I'm going to use my Z file from Stumac, and this is fantastic in as much as it cuts 2 sides in one go. And closest to, it's a diamond file, closest to you have a long cut, closest to me a short cut. Flip it over, got the complete opposite, short cut near you, long cut near me. And the great thing about this is it doesn't touch the top of the frets, but it will cut sharp on one side, narrow on another, and you flip it around, it'll do the opposite. So you can sort of build that crown for you, leaving just a thin strip of pen down the middle. And I'm going to show you, this is what I'm going to use. And it's a diamond file, like I say, fantastic piece of kit. And because it doesn't touch the top of the frets, remember we do have the frets level, it's not going to take any height off anything. So that level is going to be maintained, but this will reshape the fret, rebuilding that crown. And we have a thin black line down the centre of that fret. It is now crowned beautifully, but we're not finished there. Because that cuts a straight line, we're going to move to another file, and this is very similar to the one I just shown you, the odd shaped one, which is shaped this way. It's got this hook here for working over guitar bodies, which is brilliant. But I'm using this one, which is a gift from Nigel Roberts, and it's a better, well, it's slightly less wide, but it's concave again. And what I'm going to do with this is just round off those edges, like so, remove any burrs, and just round over these edges and just go across the top, just a couple of strokes, and we still have that thin black line down the centre, but that is now beautifully crowned, and that is ready for, almost ready for polishing. What we do then with the fret is we always clean the file after we've worked a fret, and I have various tools to help me do that. Wire brush, and we're going to give it a bit of a clean, then give it a wipe, and that's ready for the next fret. We'll do the same with this file. Exactly the same, give it a wipe, and that's ready for the next fret. Now I'm not going to do the next fret. What we're going to do now is we need to also, now we've rebuilt the crown, but what we also need to do is roll over these bevels and round them over slightly. So again, I'll be using another file, another Stumac file, and this is perfect because these 2 edges are safe edges. They're flat, they're ground flat and smooth, and we tend to use this one this way. And all we're going to do is we're going to roll over these bevels and just give them a little, and that is enough. One on each side, or a couple of strokes each side, one over the top. We'll do the same this way. One over the top, and that has softened up these edges on the bevel, so you can't feel anything now. We'll be sanding these over eventually, so I'm going to show you one more, and then I'm going to crack on and get all of these done. It takes a while, take your time with this, very satisfying work this. So again, with the clean Z file, start on the second one. Turn it over, same again. Nice thin black line down the centre, perfect. There's another one done. Same again with the beveled edges. Roll over, roll over, one over the top, roll again, just soften those edges, come around and do the other side, one over the top, and one more each side, just to bring that in nice. And that's it, that's 2 done. I'm going to crack on, get all the others done. Once they're done, we're going to move on to the next stage, which will be the polishing. Friends, it's been a couple of days, but I have levelled, crowned and polished these frets. Ended up doing the polishing, well, ended up going with 9 different grits of sandpaper. So 160 to round over the edges, 400 to round over the edges and take the pen off from the deep scratches, then 600 through 2000 to get it all done. So there you go. We now have a once ruined neck is now fully usable and refretted. And we're just going to peel off the tape to reveal the frets. They are all spot on level. I've checked and double checked that the frets are fine, and they are. And this is supposed to be low tack tape. It's supposed to make it easy to peel off. I'm just peeling off the tape, as you do, to reveal the frets, or the fingerboard and frets, and they look fantastic. And I know Gary is going to be so pleased with this. He thought this neck was ruined. I said, that's not ruined, mate. We've just got to do a little bit of trickery to get it right. There's a couple of things I could have had a go. Excuse me. I could have had a go at bending this straight. The owner didn't want me to do that. He says, no. Well, can you guarantee it's not going to bend again in the years to come? I says, well, no, I can't guarantee that. Says, but we need to look at why it bent in the first place, and maybe the wood was not ready for being used. But it would be nice to know why it bent in the first place. Normally, in my experience, if necks bend in a certain area, it's because the wood wasn't dried properly before it was used. You know, and I've experienced this quite a few times over the years. You need to find out the reason that the wood's bending. And I totally understand why he would rather have me sand off the end and make it straight rather than try and straighten it again. The only thing, the reason I like straightening wood is if it was treated right and it was proper dry, then we need to look at why it bent in the first place, you know, and is it something to do with storage, or was it because the wood wasn't actually dried and it was used before it was ready? Lovely, lovely piece of wood. I don't see why you'd not dry it properly and get it all right before you used it. There's no point using wood if it's not proper dried, especially something of this. I mean, look at the pattern in it. It's high end. So why chance it? One thing I've learnt in this game, I'm not a woodworker, I'm not a guitar builder. But one thing I've learnt is you can't mess about with wood. You've got to treat it right. Everything's got to be done right from the start. I don't know how I ended up straightening. I straighten as many necks as anything else. I am more that way inclined than I am a tech than a setup guy. I get sent loads of guitar necks to straighten. And you know, you can straighten necks, but sometimes we're really patient. But there you go. That looks fantastic. No sharpness on the edges at all. That is just, oh, so it's the first time I've seen it too. You're not going to get to see it yet. That is wonderful. I'm so pleased with that. There you go. What do you think to that, guys? I would like to have seen it sprayed, but there are 9 coats of oil on my fingerboard, and that's going to have to do. I haven't got a spray man, so what can I do about it? But there you go. But that is very, very nice. The owner of this is going to be pleased as punch. It's cost him, he's paid enough for it. You know, it's cost him a lot of money, but look at that. We've kept the binding intact, we've got the neck dead straight. Beautiful refret there. So I can now get the new tuners on. That's what I'm going to do. Get the nut back in. I'm going to glue the nut back in. It does have an aluminium nut, which he said he wanted to keep. I can get that back in. One thing I can't do is I can't fit it to the guitar yet because I'm having a neck plate specially made to fit these holes. And it's being made in Greece by my friend Harris at GMI tech tools out there in Greece, and especially making it is also the owner and the tool maker or the parts maker at, is it Halon Guitar Parts in Greece? They make very high-end, bespoke, custom guitar parts. Bridges, saddles, the lot. And I'll give you more of that information at the end of this video. So we're going to stick some tuners on here in a minute. And when I've remembered what I've done with the nut, we'll stick the nut on there as well. So tuners of choice on here, or tuners that fit. Lovely set of Gotos. Lock-in Goto, yeah, brilliant. And these are going to fit, these go straight on, so I'm going to open these up, stick these on here. I have left, I did this on purpose, there was a small chip here, and I've left it in just for prosperity, just to show that this guitar's been worked on. It's like, there's a thing in Japan, I can't remember the exact name of it now, but it's called mending the cracks with gold. And when they get a pot or something and it's cracked, and what they do is they inlay gold and melted gold, and they melt it in there and it seals it all back together. It's got these gold lines, it's called mending the cracks with gold. And it's like, they like to show the scars over the years. And I'm going to do exactly the same with this. I'm going to leave that in as it is, just to show it does have a scar. We also have a string tree to put on there as well. So these tuners, I'm going to whip these out and check, because they may be staggered. And if they are staggered, we want the lower ones at the far end. Beautiful tuners, these. A little bag of screws in there. I'm just going to check the height of them. That's not staggered. No, they're not staggered. It's just a 3-3 set. No, they're not. Oh, they're staggered? Oh, they are. There's a long one there. Check that. Is it? Or is it my eyes? That's definitely staggered. That's long. It looks like to be. Oh, that's shorter. Oh, so they are staggered. Right. Do pardon me. It's my eyes. Long, short. This one should this one be shortest? No, that's not really right. Yep, longer, shorter, longer, so that's a long one there. Just give me a moment to sort these out. They're both the same length, one side. That's two that side. These are short and short. These are again both the same side. Oh, right, yeah, that's right. These two are again. So I've got 3 long ones and 3 short ones. That's how it works. There you go. So we staggered different to Fender spec. Right, I've got you. I was thinking these are a 3-3 set for some reason. Don't know why I was thinking that. Right, okay, so we do have a 3-3 set, but there are 3 long and 3 shorter. So we're going to bang these in. And they fit perfectly, but line up with the holes on the guitar. I don't know what was on it originally, but there you go, just show you that they fit. And the guitar is beginning to take shape. Now I still have some work to do on the body itself, because the body will not accept these this neck straight away. Because the body it's got some big honking holes in there which I'm going to have to fill. Let's just check these. Right, yeah, there we go. We're all in there. We've got 3 long ones, 3 short ones. They're very short. So let me crack on with this, get these in. Once these are in, I'll come back and we'll talk about what we're going to do next with this guitar. So afternoon guys, I have moved on a little bit with this guitar. I didn't so much get fed up and wait for the neck plate to come from Greece, but I thought, you know what, I'll just stick my neck plate on there, which I have done. I wanted to just get the neck on the guitar. So there you go. So let me show you with all the tape off. Just look at that. How amazing does that look? Looks fantastic. Really, really good refret. We've got the neck straight because obviously you remember I sanded off this edge here. Great thing about it is with the neck plate, or with the neck, or the scratch plate, sorry, is covering the bottom of the binding there. You can't tell that much has been shaved off, so that's fantastic news. So I've put the neck, I've removed the tape from the neck, got the neck back on the guitar, and neck plate wise, this is a neck plate from one of my own parts casters. It's a really weird size, so I've had to go and get one made for this guitar, but I've stuck mine on it for now, and I'm going to leave that on it till the ones from Greece arrive. But yeah, look at that, really, really works. So everything, the guitar just looks fantastic. You'll notice also I have a different truss rod nut on there. I went and bought a chrome one because the brass one just didn't look right, and I'll be honest, I don't know where the brass one is, couldn't find it anywhere. So I don't know what I've done with it, but I let the owner know I'd gone and got a chrome one. He wanted a chrome one anyway, so he's absolutely fine with that, so that's brilliant. The refret could not have gone better. It looks, the frets just look fantastic, and I've put the original aluminium nut on there. We've got the new Goto tuners on there as well, and it looks fantastic. And all it's really waiting for now is strings. I'm going to put it down because this guitar is so heavy. It's probably the heaviest guitar I've had in the workshop. Really, really is heavy. But all I need to do with this now is, am I going to glue the nut in? I'm not sure. I don't really want to glue it in because I think it will just it'll make it just so difficult to change later on if we need to change anything. But yeah, but that looks great. So I think I'm just going to get some strings on there. 6x1149. There's something else I've done is I've just lightly plugged that hole where the string tree went. I've not plugged it properly. It's just a piece of cocktail stick, just snapped and forced in there and just spread out a little. It's not a professional finish because I don't know what the owner wants to be done, wants me to do with it. We're not sticking a string tree on there as far as I know. I said we don't need one because we've got staggered tuners or machine heads on there, so I don't really think it needs a string tree. So he said just says that's fine like that. So yeah, looking at it, the fingerboard feels great. It has had about 9 coats of linseed oil. Could do with many more, I suppose, but I'm going to leave it as is. I'm going to get some strings on and we're going to see what it plays like. And I don't know how the action's going to be at the saddle end. I don't know if we need to shimmer neck or not yet, but I think the best thing for me to do is to put some strings on and see where we are. And I'm thinking if I get the strings on, get it tuned in and everything sets up right, I'm going to let this go as it is, I think. I'll let him keep my neck plate and I'll have the one that's coming in from Greece, and I'll obviously charge him what it's cost me, the one from Greece, and I'll keep that for my guitar. So yeah, coming on really well. But we have a guitar where there was no guitar before. This neck had it as far as the owner was concerned. I didn't have to force bend it back. I would have liked to have bent it back and got it straight, but the owner didn't want me to do that. He just wanted me to sand it and get it playable. So he is absolutely over the moon with the work I've done on this guitar already, and he's not seen it yet. So going to get some strings on, get it tuned in, we'll see how the action is, and we'll see what we're going to do from there. But look at it, the only one on the planet. What an absolute beauty. Again, I've nipped on a little bit with the setup, and I've virtually, well, more or less done the setup. I've set the correct radius with the saddles. I've got the right height above the 12th fret. I've stretched the strings in, and I've set the right amount of relief in the neck. Really, really pleased with how this has come out. But there's one thing I need to still do, and that is to cut these fret slots to the correct depth. Now, I have a measurement for everything. A lot of people, especially the older type of luthier, will say you don't need a measurement for anything. Some of the stick in the mud type, I've been doing this years, blah blah, will say you don't need to measure anything, you should be able to do it all by eye. Well, yeah, whatever. But I have a measurement for everything, and my measurements work, and my measurements may be different to yours and may be different to ones printed in books, but my measurements work. I don't have guitars come back once I've set them up, so that must be some kind of measure to well, I do my job. So, measurements wise, I set my action at the 12th fret. On the treble side, 1.5 millimeters, on the bass side 1.75. That's the gap from the top of the fret to the bottom of the string. The amount of relief I like 0.25 millimeters at the 7th fret. I set the radius on the saddles to match the radius on the neck, so it's a 9.5 inch radius. I've checked the intonation. The intonation is actually bang on anyway, always was. So when it comes to setting the height here. If I still need to cut the nut slots, I do set this a little bit higher, so we're about 1.9 on the bass side instead of 175, and about 1.6 on the treble side. Now I'm going to cut the nut slots to the correct depth, and my measurements are this side. I'm going to be looking at a gap of 0.3 millimeters. That's the top of the fret to the bottom of the string, and we are a little bit high on that side, and on this side I'll be looking at about 0.2 millimeters. Again, top of the fret to the bottom of the string. You can go lower, but this will give me a nice low action. It means that I won't get any, I won't be going out of tune when I'm borrowing an F or an F sharp or a G chord like sometimes you do get. We're also high on that side, so I'm going to take the correct files I need for an 1149 set, and I don't remember off the top of my head what they are, but I won't be using a 10, it's not wide enough. I'm going to use a 13 for the 11. Did I leave some of these out? I've left them out, look. Left them out yesterday. I did cut the slots slightly yesterday before I put the strings on. So, for the 11 and the 14, I'm going to be using a 13 file, which is there. For the 20, this will be it'll be an 18. I have a 16. I'm going to flare it open a little bit. For the 28, I will use a 28. For the 38, I'll use a 36. And for the 48 or the 49, I will use a 50. So I've got all those out. So, taking the 50, these are Hosco files, by the way. I've had these quite a while. They're super sharp. They're a really good set of files. I think they cost me about 125 quid. And we're going to start with the bass side. So 0.3 mil is what I'm looking for. Got the right feeler gauge. We'll just have a measure. A little bit high, so we're just going to take the string off, take the file, and we're just going to cut into the aluminium knot. Aluminium cuts quite easily with these files. They are a stainless steel file. Keep measuring. Still a little bit high. Again, I'm going to need a cloth to clean the files. Any will do, this will do. Don't go too deep, you'll be replacing the knot. And I don't have an aluminium knot to replace this one with, so. And what I like to do is I like to cut horizontal, then on my last stroke just go toward the tuners or the machine heads. That one on there. Just buzzing, so that's fine. So I'll move to the next one. Like this one to be about 2.75 on this one, a little bit lower. Just going gradually lower till we get down to 0.2 on that side. So we'll stick this one back in its, I'm saying back in its packet when I find it, but I don't know where it is. Has it gone on the floor? Probably. Which have a real look. So this one, 38. The closest I have is a 36. So what we'll do is we'll slightly flare this open. Now, in case of measure twice, cut once again, or measure many times, cut once. Bear with me a second, my wife is at the door. So that's just my wife opening again the front door, just back from school. She's a teacher, but she whizzed round the back, so cracking on. I've done these first 4 strings, or the first 4 closest to me, so I've got the B and the E to do. I'll just give them spectacles, I must have left them upstairs. I can continue without. So just checking, 0.25 in the middle. Just hitting that one. This one. So a bit about 0.24 on that one. So we're going to go about 0.21, 22 on this, and about 0.2 on the top E. So we're going to get the 0.2 feeler gauge. And once that's done, we're going to take a measurement again at the 12th fret, and if the heights are right, we're going to leave it as. So, 11 and a 14, I'm using the 13 file for both of these. That's already low enough, the B. and the E is just a little bit high. So now to touch the B, just the E, and this is making that sitar type of sound, which normally happens when the nut slot is not cut right. So we're just gonna, the great thing about these files, by the way, these Hosco files, is they cut a perfect U shape or semicircular shape. We don't cut a V like the cheaper ones, so just a matter of taking your time. Don't go too deep, like I say, you'll be replacing the nut. And there you go, and this one should be fine. Still giving me that sitar noise, and I don't know why. Maybe it's just not sat right, so I'm just going to carve that back a little bit. Could be higher on the back than it is the front, and that would do it. And there you go. It was exactly what I said. It was cut too high on the back. So what you need to do is just take it slightly down toward the machine head and make sure you're just angling it back slightly, and you won't get that sitar ring we were getting there. So if this is ringing true now, and that, my friends, is the nut slots cut correctly. Just tuning in. Very exciting because we're getting right to the end of the project. So that is it, really, really nice. All I need to do now is I need to get plugged in. Oh, I need to check the action at the 12th fret, don't I? So we're looking at 1.75 on the bass side, we are about 1.8 and 1.5 on the treble. We are about, or a little bit high. So I'm going to just drop those two. I'm hoping you can see a little bit where you are. Just going to drop just a little bit each one. Quarter of a turn every saddle, and I'm going to tune it back in, and we should have everything set right. So again, I'll take that measure at the 12th fret, 1.75, about 1.6 there. I'm happy with that. All done. There we are, friends, we are all done, and what a fabulous project this one has been. It's been just fantastic to work on. I know we haven't got the correct plate on the back there. The original was lost somewhere. I just happened to have one that fitted, so I've put mine on there. I've had one specially made in Greece. It's supposed to be on the way, or on the way soon. So when it gets here, I will try and get it swapped over. But if not, I can keep my made in Japan one. It makes no difference to me, as long as I've got one that fits on my guitar. I'm just putting this string back over. These saddles, I'm not into these saddles. They're not as much staggered as they are they are kind of not even twisted, they just cut that way so they do the intonation right. But the strings do slip left and right on them, so they do need grooves on them. They don't all have grooves. But we've got the guitar all done. And this it came in with a bent neck. It was bent here at the heel. Now I suggested that I straighten it. The guy says, yeah, but the thing is, can you guarantee it will stay straight? I says, no, I can't. I never can do. He says, well, what options are there? And I says, the only other option is, because it was kinked up that end at here, I says, we can sand it. We can sand all the high bit out of it, not try and bend it, which eventually is what I did. So it meant that where you see the thickness of the binding there is thick, it gets thinner and thinner down this end, because we've taken that angle off and flattened it off, so we've shaved that bit off. But lo and behold, it's hidden there by the scratch plate, so you don't even know. Unless I told you that, you wouldn't know. But if you look here, the binding gets thinner at that end. But we have fixed it. And what I had to do then was, with sanding it down, I had to re-radius the whole board. I was going to send it off to be sprayed, but the guy I was using for spraying became somewhat unreliable. I mean, that unreliable, I'm never sending him any work again. He still has 2 of my guitars, which he's had for just over 2 months, and it should have been 2 weeks' work. And I don't know if I'm going to get them back. That's cost me money again. But the less I say about that, the better. But anyway, so I don't have a paint guy. So I decided to just sand all this down, and I gave it 9 coats of board linseed oil, which has sealed the wood. It hasn't darkened it as much as the rest of it. Maybe in hindsight I should have stained it a little bit, but it still looks fantastic, and it is coated with oil and it looks great. I've given it a complete refret. I used a 2.5mm by 1.2 high, 2.5 wide by 1.2 millimeters high fret wire. We had to work inside the binding. It's been an expensive job for the client, this one. It's cost him 390 quid. But it's had a lot of work. I didn't charge him exactly what I should charge him. I knocked a little bit off here and there. But it has had a lot of hours. Re-radiusing the fingerboard, oiling up and everything. There was 140 quid labour just in that. You got your refret, which was 225 quid just for a refret. Then you've got your fret wire to put on top of there. And other bits of labour here and there. But yeah, it's come out really great. I mean, it's revived the guitar that was caving. This neck was knackered. The client had bought in a spare neck and a spare blank neck for me to use in case. This was actually plan C. And he gave me plan A, he gave me plan B, and he gave me this, and he says if you can do that plan C. And I says, well, forget plan A, plan B, I'm going straight with plan C. We're going to try and revive a neck, which is exactly what we've done. It's a handmade guitar by Mr. Cairnes, can't remember his first name. Everything's Cairnes. The scratch plates, the pickups are made by Cairnes himself. Everything on this guitar is handmade by Mr. Cairnes, whoever he was. It's got an aluminium nut on there. I have put a chrome truss rod nut on there because I did lose the brass one. Now the owner didn't want the brass one, but lo and behold, I found this in one of my safe places. I have many safe places in this workshop, as does everyone. And I found it when I was looking in my tape box down there. It was in my tape box, so I found that, so he can have that back anyway, but he does want the chrome one on there. So here we go, a Cairnes 504 custom, completely handmade guitar, including the pickups, the bridge plate, I imagine the saddles and everything is all handmade. I know the knobs aren't made, the tone and volume knobs aren't handmade, but everything else is. It's got some. Well, the tuners aren't, the tuners are made by Goto. We put them on there, that's an addition as well. And it has my made in Japan neck plate, which just happened to perfectly fit. So everything looks fantastic. The weight of this guitar is phenomenal. It's great. I've plugged it in, I've played it. It sounds great, it plays great, it looks fantastic. And I know Gary is going to be over the moon when he comes and picks it up. I'm getting one of my top-notch setups, which gives us 0.25 millimeters relief at the 7th fret. An action of 1.75mm and 1.5mm on the E strings, top E 1.5, bottom E 1.75, that's the space from the top of a fret to the bottom of a string. Recut the nut slots, we've set the intonation, we've set the radius on the saddles, I've set the pickup heights. The only thing I've not done on this guitar is check strap pins, and I'm going to do that right here, right now, and that's well tight, and this is it's well tight. So it is all done. Complete one-off guitar. You'll not see the likes of it again. I can't say we'll never see the likes of it again in this workshop, because I seem to get a lot of rare guitars in this workshop, but it's all done. Standard Telecaster pickup in the bridge, P90 in the neck, again handmade by Mr. Cairnes. What a stunning guitar, and I really do hope I've done it justice. I'm sure I have. I know Gary's going to be absolutely over the moon. He's going to pick it up in a bit. Picking it up in about the next, time are we at? We're 6 PM. We'll be here in the next 30 minutes to pick this up, and it will be over the moon. So that's over the moon. So that is it. It is all done. Been great fun doing this one, but it's time to move on to something else. So before I do, just remind you of my websites, fretfriend.co.uk, even better, facebook.com/ng17. That's facebook.com/NGONESEVEN. I am Victor. I am your fret friend. And until the next one, as always, God bless you. Be good to each other. And I'll see you in the next one.